Dear young African comms professional, your future self has something to say. Alrighty, welcome back to My Younger Self, the podcast where we sit with communication professionals and change makers across Africa. We're sitting with them not just to recount their wins, but to reflect on the real, the raw, and the moments that shaped who they have become. My name is Blessing Emmanuel Maaweh. I am your host, and today's guest is Emmanuel Maaweh Tanga, a development communications consultant, a compelling storyteller, and an early career researcher who spent the last decade weaving narratives that move the needle across Africa's development and humanitarian space. From youth development and climate resilience to social impact storytelling, Maaweh's journey has taken him across organizations like GIZ, CRS, and most recently, CARE International, where he led donor and project communications. But behind the CV is someone who has intentionally chosen to shape African narratives from the inside out by blending strategy, data, and authenticity to amplify the voices that often go unheard. In this episode, we will talk about learning to listen deeply, staying rooted in purpose, and owning your own unique path, even when it feels uncertain or unseen. Welcome to My Younger Self, Maaweh.
Thank you very much, Blessing. Great to be here.
I'm glad that you're here, and I'm looking forward to this conversation because every conversation that we've had on this podcast, there's something that it does. And the conversations are usually unscripted because they'll take their own form. And so I'm looking forward to the form that this conversation takes. I'm looking forward to also learning because I don't believe that anybody has monopoly of knowledge. And I hope that we can go away with so much wisdom even after this conversation. So thank you for agreeing to be here today with us. And I will just start with my usual first question. How did you get into comms?
I guess this is one of those times where you respond that, when I was born, I whispered into my mom's ear that I want to be a comms professional.
Let's hear that
Yeah,
story.
but for me, it started unconsciously. I've been engaged with multimedia content since my early days. I think even as far back as junior high school, I've always been drawn to the arts and to music, to sound, to visuals. As a child, I used to draw. And I remember my mom used to tell me one day I should keep it up. One day I'll probably be creating designs for these textile companies and all of that. Mama, I haven't reached there yet, but you never know what the next steps would be. So I've always had this creative aspect of myself. And so going to school and going to senior high school, I've always been involved with everything that had to do with the creativity and with the arts. But it wasn't consciously because I wanted to be a communication person. I had colleagues who wanted to grow up to become journalists and all of that. I didn't have that aspiration clear cut for me. But I believe this background in arts and design and multimedia set the ground for me when I finally completed my studies at the university. Where I studied integrated community development. And so it served as a launch pad for me to go into the development sector where I've worked all this while. And so, yes, here is a very long answer to a short question.
Oh, no. I mean, the answers usually get longer than this, so it's
Yeah.
okay. All right. Thank you so much.
So let me just chip this in. You would notice I mentioned integrated community development.
Yeah.
I didn't train in, okay, let me not say train, I didn't study communication coming out of school.
Yeah.
It was something I ended up in because of uh, a rare skill set that I presented. A lot of people that went to journalism school, went to communication school, were mostly stuck in the line of writers. There were people who could just write, and a lot of them didn't have the skill around photography, around videography. And so, because I had nurtured these skills from a very long time back, that was what actually I think opened the door to my first entry into the communication space. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So it's important to have skills because you never know where these skills will take you to. I agree with that. And I think I grew up learning that no knowledge is a waste, and so I'm like a sponge. I just try to soak up every knowledge possible because you never know where it will come in handy. And it also doesn't mean that you have to be a master of that skill. Sometimes just the basics are good enough, and you can certainly build on it.
So I actually like to challenge this whole narrative of one not being a master of all and all of that. Yeah, and you are right. You don't need to be a master of all of it. From what I've realized, my ability to enter into rooms where I had no business being in were because I could do things that I had no business knowing, looking at where I was or the role that I held.
Mm.
But like they say, when you are in one role, you should actually be preparing for your next role.
Yeah.
And so for me, I had opportunity to do a very wide, varied lineup of things that sometimes I even forget that I had ever had anything to do with those things. But those experiences, day in, day out, help shape my conviction and my understanding of the world. And in a sense, that's just what it is. It's that understanding that you bring to bear that adds value. Because in all we do, the skill set is just theory that everybody goes to school to learn. But then what you actually bring on board is the value that you add to whatever the activity or whatever that you engage with. And so in my case, my childhood and my early days in school and all of the things that I went through that I learned are things that are serving me very well right now. And I say I have no regrets.
Amazing. Amazing. I'm glad that you can look back and say I have no regrets with all of those skills that you learned, all of the things that you all of the theoretical knowledge and then the practical ones that you stumbled on. Thank you. You talked about it all making sense in the end. You said keep going, it will all make sense in the end. Your many ideas will find convergence and expression. And that's such a powerful encouragement for whoever is listening. I think the first thing I would ask you from that question is what were the things that did not seem to make sense to you?
So again, jack of all trades. I was this young dreamer that had so many things that I thought I wanted to be, I thought I wanted to do. And I mean, I experiment a lot. Well, a lot less these days anyway, but I used to experiment with a lot of things back in the day. So back in school, I I was involved in, like I mentioned, growing up, I used to draw. And so I happened to be the person to design a hall logo, a logo for one of the halls in the university that I attended, which is still in use as we speak. That would have been one career path. Sometimes I even forget I've ever done something like that because, I mean, it was done casually. It was just a spur of the moment. They wanted it done. I happened to be around and could do it, and I delivered it. And that is one line that I could have gone. I was involved in music in school. I was recording others in my dorm room, And then someone set up a studio in the town where the university was based and had heard of me and asked me to come operate the studio for him as a sound engineer. And so I did that for the remainder of the time, my time in school. So a part of me would have thought that by now I would be releasing a remix to Remus new song, or partnering with him on that new song or something. But here I am on a podcast as a corporate person and not as an entertainment person.
So you're an
Yeah,
all-round creative guy.
yeah, and I was involved in shooting of music videos and other videos as well. And in school, I had always held a leadership position in school, except in the university. And so, being the senior prefect, you would always be expected to be the most serious person in school. And so, you should have a serious job as well. So, there was that part of me that also knew that, okay, you need to have a serious job and not be in the gig economy and all of that. So, coming into development communication and working all these years with the organizations I've had the opportunity to work with, all of these things that I have done have gradually come to make sense to me. I mean, to the extent that I actually had a clothing line as well that I pitched to TechnoServe at the time. There was a program engine enhancing growth in new enterprises, and I was one of the winners. So there was that line as well that I could have told the business line of things that didn't go well in the end anyway. So that is how come I am here and not on a fashion poster. But it wasn't wasted,
Mhm.
and that is how I bought my first camera. It's from that's the winnings of, I think I won £3,000 at the time, around 2015, 2014, 2015, thereabouts. And that's how I bought my first camera and went into photography and built a whole portfolio that is part of why I am here today. So at that time, and also be young, you would always be like, okay, maybe I'm not meant to do this. Let me do this. Let me do that. Let me do that. But now that I sit back, at the time I thought it was probably a waste of my time doing certain things. But now all of them come to bear on who I am. And in my experience, I've realized that a lot of communication people didn't have the benefit of that kind of growing up or experience. And so there is usually uh, someone is more attuned to the journalistic side of things in writing. Others are uh, purely multimedia production people. They are good at doing videos, but if you give them a story to write, you will regret it. Others are good at talking. It's their gift. It's just put them on the spot any day. They can talk and all of that. But I had the opportunity to go through all of these things. So I found it a lot easier coping with the needs of a communication role where every day is a new challenge. A lot of things are thrown at you every day. Yeah, so I just found it easier to cope than most. At least listening to some colleagues share their experiences, I realized I had it relatively easy. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually very good because I know that even in the course of work, sometimes I mean, someone is disappointing you, maybe the guy that's responsible for graphics or the guy that's responsible for video or the person that's responsible for content writing, someone is just disappointing you. And just knowing that you have this skill somewhere, I mean, you can just decide to pick up that thing, get it done so that you can keep the ball rolling because sometimes you don't even have the luxury of time that the other person has to think that they can disappoint you, but the job has to be done. So I think I mean, it makes a lot of sense. So maybe I would tell someone that's listening that they should consider getting as many skills as possible because in the end, it will make a lot of sense. And sometimes.
On a lighter note, on that same point, it also has the downside where because you know graphic designing and you know video, you tend to want to dictate to the person responsible how to go about it. But
Yeah.
it's a creative process, and sometimes, I mean, from what I've realized in the end, if you wait long enough, your concerns may as well be addressed, and you will have a product from a direction that you hadn't even thought of. But
Mm-hmm.
because I'm usually in the headspace of someone who is doing it myself. And when I started, I used to, I didn't have the luxury of, okay, there's a graphic designer, there's the video person, there's the photographer, there's the writer, and all of that. I was doing all together. And
Mm-hmm.
so that is one point, difficulty that I found midway, detaching from some of those roles for others to be able to shine in their roles was a bit of a
Yeah.
challenge, yeah, for me.
Yeah, I know I can understand that. I think that the way that I have been able to address it is just give directions. Unfortunately, sometimes, like you mentioned, it makes you want to micromanage because you just think that you know everything, but really you don't know everything. So, so yeah, step back and let the other person shine. I
Yeah,
also think that another downside may just be that you become the guy that does everything for the organization, and so when you start asking for, like,
that's the actual bad part of it. Good luck explaining to your boss that
oh
you
my
are actually
god,
spending your weekends on the job when you shouldn't.
really good luck, because I mean, you are saving costs. You are the one guy that does everything, so you're saving costs for the organization, and then you start asking for, I need a writer, I need this, and I need that, and you suddenly become the bad person because
I didn't get that tip early enough.
better late than never. So if you are I mean, okay, so if there was someone like you listening now, and he was the guy that knew how to do everything for everybody, what would you say to him now that you have that tip?
My guy, relax, relax. You can't kill yourself. You see, the truth is that on a professional level, they won't tell you this because, like you said, companies want to make profits, organizations want to make maximum benefits of the salary that they pay you.
Yeah.
But in the end, if you overexert yourself, you will burn out. I've experienced it, and it's not pretty. It's not pretty at all, and it has a bearing on your personal life. It could have a bearing on your health, your relationships, because you will become the guy that no one else around you can call you for anything personal other than work. Anytime friends reach out to you, you are always working. You are always working, and yet you don't earn more than them to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
They have a better work to salary ratio than you do. Yet you are always working. You are always on the move. It's good. It's good for building work ethic, but long term it's going to have a drain on you, so you are going to have to learn to say no, or to say, okay, I've heard you, let's schedule it for this time, and then have your work scheduled out, and you can do it.
Yeah.
I have a boss who said that he said the price for hard work is more work.
Amen.
And so once you are giving all of the work that one person shouldn't have been able to do, and you have been able to do it in under an hour, yeah, that it means there's just more work coming your way.
Yeah. It means that you have spare time.
Yeah.
Imagine that
Yes, exactly.
you have 8 hours to work in a day and you're done with your work by 12 noon.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we still have 5 hours
Not
to go.
not
Yes,
not
yes.
to say don't work, but it's just also about being smart about the work and have time for yourself. A healthier you will bring more to the table tomorrow than one who does more, and then tomorrow you come in drained. You will bring in less to the table.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Thank you. Let's talk about the moment of uncertainty. You shared about being conflicted about choosing a new job. I mean, you certainly know that you wanted the job, and then there was the part of I'm scared. How did you navigate that?
Will I really characterize it as being scared? I think it's just this thing about the imposter syndrome that creeps in when you are going along your career. Your experiences at some point probably will make you feel like there are certain limitations to how far you can go. In my case, that was one of the situations. I didn't know whether if I moved out of my comfort zone, I could thrive, because here I was largely very successful in what I was doing. Everybody appreciated what I was doing. Even audience feedback sometimes coming back positive, and you know that, oh, okay, this my handiwork, and they are saying I'm doing well. Then I'm doing well. Let me just stay in my lane and do what I'm doing. And so having to move was going to take me into uncharted waters, and I didn't know how it was going to go. On the other side of it, at the time also, I didn't know how the end rope of communication looked like. So in the development space, when you are going in as a young person, you are either going in as an administrative staff, a finance and admin staff, or you are going in as a project staff, handling the daily implementation of projects, programs, or you are going in as a communication person or an M&E person. And in a lot of those cases, I had examples of people who had moved in such a career and ended up at the top of the ladder. In my mind, I know, as I said, I know I want to be at the top of whatever I do. I want excellence, and I want to be at the top of an organization one day. But looking at communication and other people I was seeing that were into communication, I wasn't seeing that reflect in their careers. I could see people in programming ending up as country leads or heads of big programs and all of that. M&E, people doing monitoring, evaluation, learning, accountability, ending up in such roles. But it was quite difficult for me to pinpoint people in the line of communication. And so all of that threw me into a frenzy. And I started thinking whether to abandon ship and course correct to where probably will take me to the top. The realization I came to, and this was because I finally had the opportunity to interact with more senior colleagues, which for me is the key. Mentoring is very, very much undervalued, especially in this our space.
Yep, that's correct.
That was when my eyes opened to the myriad of the whole bunch of opportunities that lay ahead, and the fact that you can actually be a leader even in communication. So you can be a communication lead for an organization, not just a project, and your influence or the amount of influence you exert is almost as much as if you were at the top of a small organization, because you have a whole team that you are also leading who look up to you for inspiration and for guidance, for them to also probably one day get to where you are, which is the same principle that applies in organizational leadership. And that was when, for me, it all changed. And I realized that it may not also be as easy as going to start afresh, because where you are going to start, some people have also been there for a while. You are now going to learn. They are heading to the top already. And so it made sense for me to build upon what I already had, the skills I already had, and what I had already achieved over the period. And with that advice, and they pointed me to people that I didn't know had a communication background who actually did. And if I grew up knowing Blessing as the head of an organization, I probably don't know how she got there. And so I wouldn't be able to, but I finally was able to identify people that were doing extremely well at the top of their organizations, and they came from communication. So it came to me then that it's not necessarily about where you are or the line of work you are doing. It's about your drive for excellence. Once you are able to excel at what you are doing where you are, you will be seen, and you will gradually make your way to the top. be it still in comms or as the leader of an organization. Yeah.
There's so much truth in all that you have shared. And I want to ask you, with navigating this uncertainty, with finding mentorship, with also prioritizing excellence for yourself, how has all of this shaped your professional confidence?
Oh, I mean, I don't know how to characterize it, but I think I owe it all to that realization. A lot changed in me, my attitude to work and all of that changed at that very point, because all of a sudden I was committed to something that I was beginning to withdraw from. And so it changed a lot of things for me. At that point, I made up my mind that this is what I know, this is what I've been doing. Even when I didn't know I was going to go into communication, I was inadvertently doing communication without knowing it. So why go somewhere else when I can perfect what I've been doing or what I started a long time ago? So the goal again for me at that point was to pursue excellence. And here is why feedback is also very important. People around me gave positive feedback about how I was doing. And so I felt then that, okay, I am improving. It looks like I am improving from, I'm no longer where I was some time back. And so it means that I am well on course to where I want to get to.
And that's amazing. That's good. I like the fact that you talked about getting positive feedback, because sometimes it's not common. Some people are not lucky enough to get positive feedback. They may find themselves in organizations where the boss just thinks, well, I'm paying you, just get the job done. And then they don't get a well done and thank you for such great work. If someone...
Funny thing, let me chip it in before your question.
Okay.
So I was on a platform where some professionals were asking how you deal with uh, should I say, junior colleagues or team members who seem not to be pulling their weight and they are not doing this or that. And some of the responses were like, "Yeah, well, I'm not here to babysit anybody and that kind of thing. We are all here to work. Let's work and get it over with." And I've heard in other places where we are not supposed to be friends. We are here to all work and go back home and all of that. And I laughed, maybe because of my experience. I mean, we've all faced these things, the positives, the negatives. But for me, what I have found is that relationship building rather helps than worsen some of these situations. Because in my case, I find that I put in more when I realize that my contribution is valued, that I am part of something bigger than myself. And so I begin to feel that, okay, Blessing asked me to do this thing. If I don't do it, not only am I letting her down, but I am painting both of us in a bad light, and we are not able to achieve that bigger thing that we wanted to do. Threatening me wouldn't get me to do that. Threatening me would just get me to sit at my desk and probably give you some of what you want. But if I go home and some brilliant idea comes up, I am most likely not even going to attend to it or whatever. But if we have that kind of relationship building in place, anywhere that a brilliant idea comes up, I am just and I do that. I ruminate on ideas a lot, even at odd hours. And so when a brilliant idea like that comes up, you go in and then discuss it with the team and realize that, wow, there's something that we want to do. That wouldn't have come up if there was some bad blood between the manager and the team member. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to skip my question because you've already answered it.
I promise I won't cut in again.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Let's talk about trusting your judgment, even in the midst of uncertainty. And many times it's easier said than done, because sometimes when the uncertainty hits, sometimes you just want to drop your shoulders and be like, okay, you know what, that's it. But when you have all of those situations, what have you been able to do that has helped you build that kind of trust in yourself, that regardless of whatever the uncertainty is, I will trust my gut? And then I think another question I want to add is, did you also, were there times that you trusted your gut and you wound up in trouble?
Comms of Africa, the Pan-African voice of communication, media, and content, connecting today's professionals and tomorrow's leaders across the continent.
Yes and yes. Yeah, so trusting your gut is like the first thing that I think we should be taught in school, because that's where almost every one of us passes through, or at least from your parents. That is one thing that we should be taught. I think from my experience, and I think I speak for all of us because as cousins, we have similar backgrounds and context. I mean, Ghana and Nigeria anyway. And so what I've come to realize, and I mean, even with between myself and some friends, is that we lack a lot of confidence to do the things that we are supposed to be doing, things that we are actually very good at, and things that we are actually very knowledgeable at, and it's all a matter of confidence. Elsewhere, people are taught to be confident first, and then they go on to learn a skill that they bandy around as experts and all of that. Sometimes I have this strange thing of watching TV and then uh, being able to mark someone that is labeled as an expert. Just look at all the things they are saying, and it's not really that much. Yeah, but this is someone who has put themselves out there and as an expert in a subject matter, and they are speaking to it and they are carrying themselves that way.
Yeah.
So coming to that realization was, I mean, I think it's a personality thing also, and so I came to the realization, but it didn't necessarily all of a sudden flip me from this person that had imposter syndrome to this person that was all confident and knowing where they were going. It's not as straightforward as that. I still had to a lot of figuring out to do on the way. But now having it in mind, being conscious that the people in the room are no better than I am, it gave me more confidence to be able to even if I don't have the answer and I have questions, I voice them out, or I have concerns, I voice them out. So um, in some work cultures, I may not thrive over there because there are some work cultures where you cannot question your superior or question their idea. But I was able to build that kind of attitude. So whether internally or at a huge stakeholder engagement or whatever, if I think that I have a contrary understanding of something, especially that I think it can add value to the discussion, I don't fear to bring it up. In that case, not necessarily because I think that I am an expert in that subject matter. There are times that I have brought that up, and then someone else has brought a different perspective to it, and I've ended up going with what they were saying. But in the end, I'm now sure that I'm convinced by what they are selling. But I would otherwise have gone out saying that, oh, these people are not even serious. This thing they are saying, it shouldn't be that way. But in the end, who have I helped? Because I was in that room to contribute to the discussion. So if I didn't do it, then I'm doing myself a disservice and my organization a disservice. And so the knowledge of that thing itself is a first step. It will take time for a person to be able to change from one side to the other. And even I am still a work in progress. There are still times when I walk into a room and then be intimidated by the names that are in there and whether I'm actually fit to be here or not. But also experience, because I have done this over and over, helps me to calm myself down and assure myself that this is exactly where I need to be. Yeah. But in terms of getting into trouble, yes. I mean,
I want one example.
yeah. So,
I think I want a big trouble example.
hey, but if I had big trouble, I probably wouldn't have ended up where I did. I would have been sacked a long time ago.
Okay. So let's have the small trouble
But
example.
in the line of communication, I've realized that it's inevitable. You will make mistakes, not you may. So in the early days when I encountered the smallest one I will mention is a story that I wrote, and in all I trusted what I was putting out, and then found out later that there was a word that I used that wasn't in its right framing. And up to date, when I remember that thing, it just beats me a lot because it's on a very big platform, and I'm not going to mention for you to go and look it up.
We'll
So
have
we
this
just
conversation after now.
yeah. So it's more like a phrase, and the word in the phrase, I still don't know whether I made a mistake or whatever, but I should have gone over again and again, which I didn't do. And then after the publication was done, I realized that that was the case. I beat myself up over it, but I said, well, probably majority of people are not even going to notice that that's what happened. So let me let it go. A bigger one for me that is consequential um, would have been a huge stakeholder engagement that we had in one of the organizations where I worked, and some letters were supposed to have gone out. I sent them out, and some didn't deliver, but I didn't notice. And these were very senior people that needed to know about it way ahead of time. And usually there's the formal bit of it and the informal bit of it. So in informal conversations, the higher ups had those conversations, and I was like, "Oh, we've invited your office." And it's like, "No, I've not seen any invitation." And then it's like, "No, I'm sure our people sent the invitations." And so when they got back, and then I mean, I was also sure that I had sent it, but I have this thing about, I think the imposter syndrome or the self-doubt sometimes helps, because at that point when the question was asked, I didn't try to defend. I said, yeah, I sent it, but let me cross-check. So otherwise, I would have defended that I sent it, and they will go back and insist it's been sent, and then it will be like someone over there received it and doesn't want to admit. So I went back and checked, and also knowing that some of these things can happen, though it's not regular, I checked and then realized that the thing actually didn't go through, and it was an error in the email that was captured. I wasn't the one who captured the email anyway, but if I had noticed it didn't deliver, I would have had to send it again or request for the correct email and send it, which I didn't do. And now let me link this back to the point where you asked about what my advice would be to a young person who knows how to do a lot of things and all of that. These are some of the mistakes that you can make when you like moving things along very fast. So if I had taken my time to go back to check to be sure that these things had not gone through, I would have been able to avert this situation. But if you have a lot on your hands, you are clearing this to move on to the next, you are clearing this to move on to the next, you barely have enough time to make some of those cross checks.
Yeah.
And in my case, I was just well, it may not have been enough to substitute being asked to go anyway, but I had also built some level of trust in the organization that they knew it was a genuine error, though cross-checking would have solved it again, but they knew that it was a one-off situation, and so it's not something that I should be penalized for. So I was lucky to have been let go on that one. So since then, everything I do, I try to go, whether it's something I've written, it's an email I am sending, it's whatever, I try to go over it a number of times. The mind sometimes can be very deceptive. You can
Yeah.
just brush over certain things and then you think that it's all good. Yeah. So I think that's it for me on that.
Thank you. I have one question before my last question to you. That one question is imposter syndrome. I mean, you've mentioned it a couple of times. And on some other episodes, we've also had the mention of imposter syndrome because imposter syndrome is a real thing. And it happens to the best of us. I think it happens to a vast majority of the population. And apparently, no. So I've actually met people that can't understand what imposter syndrome is. No, I really have. Yes, and I think those people are minority. Yeah, I believe that they are minority because it happens to a lot of people. How would you say that you have been able to navigate this thing called imposter syndrome?
First of all, exposure. Exposure. Why I keep referring back to it, it's something that was dominant in my early professional years, and I don't usually like going this route about the whole Africans and an African thing and all of that. But that exposure to the other side showed me that, yeah, they really weren't bringing anything so extraordinary than the confidence with which they presented themselves. And so that was the beginning of me appreciating that, I mean, we are all human beings. We all probably went to same levels of school. Sometimes we even go more, but you still feel like you shouldn't be at this table. And someone younger than you is holding a global role, sitting at a desk with you. You feel intimidated about their presence, and they sometimes give very uninformed positions about things, and you decide that, okay, they are the global people, so they should know, when in actual fact, you are the subject matter expert. And so exposure and experience is what taught me that this is not something I should accept. And luckily also, as I climbed up in my career, I met people that I could identify with who were also doing tremendously well and were very confident and self-assertive about what they wanted to do. And so all of that then began to shape my thoughts that it's not too high for me, and if this person can be there, I can equally be there. And even if we are not at the same level, once the opportunity has presented itself and I am there, I have to make it count. And so that is just what I've lived with up to this point. So there are still times where I enter rooms where I'm either the youngest person there or the should I say the least qualified? No, not the least qualified, but there are people with bigger roles, bigger titles, who treat you with respect because they know that that room you are sitting in, you wouldn't be there if you hadn't paid your dues or if you didn't have what it takes to be in there. So if they have come to that understanding and they are showing me that respect, why shouldn't I accord myself that same level of understanding? And so these days, I walk into a room, I walk in there with a lot of confidence that, yeah, this could have been anybody, but it's me. So while I am here, let me handle things the way I think that they should be handled. And that's where the trust in intuition comes in. A lot of the time, I bring out something that I had initially rubbished. I bring it out and people are like, wow, yeah, that's a good one. We hadn't thought of that. I'm like, okay, so you actually have a lot to bring to the table. So don't deny yourself that. And lastly, on this, I had a recent boss and mentor whose words keep ringing back to me that when you are given the opportunity, shine. When you are given the opportunity, shine. And so, uh, I mean, it's on the back of some things we have done, and in giving me positive feedback, he was telling me that that's his principle. He believes that people should be given an opportunity, and once you are given that opportunity, look to it as something that's an opportunity that will never come again. And so, whatever you can do to make sure that you excel at that opportunity, do it. And so, to him, I had excelled at that opportunity, and he was just congratulating me and telling me to keep it up, and saying that a lot of the time we look down on ourselves even before someone else does so. But self confidence, we can push and break barriers. And this is someone who has done that. I know of his life story and how he has broken bounds into the global development space and is thriving and doing really well. And so coming from someone like that, I know that it really works. And so it's something I've kept in mind up to now, that when I get the opportunity to do something, I try to do it to the best that I can, go over and beyond, just to make a point that this person that uh, probably shouldn't be in the room actually deserves to be in the room.
Awesome. Thank you. Finally, if you had a chance to sit with your younger self and your younger self listened to this entire conversation, what's the one message you would want him to hold on to with both hands?
A lot of things running through my mind right now. If my younger self caught me right now, I'm not sure the session would end today.
Okay, let's have one. Let's have
but
one.
but yeah, I guess yeah, I'm just I think I would tell my younger self not to depart from what my younger self did, not to wait for things to get polished before they come out. I would ask my younger self to be himself. I think that is what has gotten me where I am, that authenticity. I did a lot of things from a naive standpoint, and I think that that made it authentic and resonated with people. And so people decided to also help me to rise up. And I think that is one of the best traits that probably led me onto the right path. And so, my young self, if you are listening, stay on that path. Those many ideas that are coming, keep doing them. You will eventually find convergence in where I sit right now. And probably if I continue along this line, my future self will thank me for staying on this path. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, we will now go to the reflection from Dami. Dami, you have the mic.
Hello.
Hi,
It's
Dami.
Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm Damilola Orenshile, and I'm the communications officer at the Comms Avenue. So it's been such a pleasure listening to you, Mawe. I think especially because I'm someone that has naturally has a lot of talent and skills that I can easily pick up. And so even the last thing you said, because the question I was going to ask you is about how all these skills and talents and how you're able to make peace with having all of that, and like currently as this older, not that I'm saying you're old, but as this older
I am actually.
more experienced professional, because when you are young, it's like there's so many things pulling you in different directions, and it's like, where do you focus on? But even the last thing you said about convergence, I think that really spoke to me. Like, it's not about, or it's not necessarily about figuring it out immediately or right now, but it's the journey to becoming that. And on that journey, you find the answers to which one to focus on per time. And I think if you could just speak a little to just work or moving through that confusion of what do I focus on right now, I think that would be it for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dami. Yeah, I get you, and I don't think I've forgiven myself even up to this point about some of the things. But I also don't hold too much grief because they have contributed to where I am and who I am today. But as you rightly put it, I've realized that the fulfillment is in the experience. It's in experiencing these things. So when I sit back on life to reflect, not to be insensitive to people with mental health or people who are down at some point and feel like taking their own lives and all. But I feel because of the so many experiences I've had, I've never sat down, even at my lowest, to think in that direction because I feel there is so much to live for. There are so many mistakes to make, and there is so much that I have not done yet. I'm yet to do, even at my ripe old age. And I say I agree with you because per Ghana standards, I've officially left the youth bracket, so I'm now I'm a post-youth young man. But I still believe that I have a lot of things to experience. So there are people who are born into a certain experience. Maybe a father is a lawyer. They see the whole life of a lawyer growing up, and they grow to want to become a lawyer. Not everyone has that experience, and so that is where I look at this from. That whereas someone would have a clear-cut path going forward, others may need to experience different things to be able to identify what they are good at. If you identify one and it works for you, brilliant. If you have one and then it doesn't work for you, that becomes a problem. So then instead of us, the multi-talented, seeing it as a challenge, identifying what we want to do, it should rather be an opportunity to see which one works for us going forward. And you can always use some of the others for side gigs or whatever you want to do, or if just for fun. People still do certain things just for the fun of it. I think you can do that, but I don't think that it takes anything away. Being multi-talented is what it is. You are talented in so many different things, and it will shape your future one way or the other. The only downside again is the unfulfillment of the potential you have and watching it go to waste. And that's what I meant when I said I haven't yet forgiven myself. There are things that I touched on. I touched a couple of things and left. People currently have gone into those spaces and have thrived. At the time that I touched them, they were very novel, and probably I would have been sitting at the top as someone who pioneered this thing and that. But I don't regret it because even with that, it still gave me a certain context to be able to move into the space that I am now. So where I sit, I think no regrets, and you should look forward to yours as well. I'm sure yours will be more illustrious going forward. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Honestly, I think that's all from me. I've learned so much listening to you today. And I believe that any young professional that listens to this episode is going to leave with like a lot of lessons because you've shared very openly, you've shared very honestly. And yeah, it's been very um a little bit validating. Yeah, like okay. I'm not going left, not too much. So thank you so much.
Yeah, pleasure.
Alrighty, thank you, Dami. Glad that you got validation because that's the word you used. I'm really glad that you got that from this session. Thank you, Maaweh, for helping her feel validated. Okay, we'll now go to your letter to your younger self. Do you have it ready?
Yes, yes.
Go for it.
Okay, so I decided not to write, but just to share some reflections on that. I think I've touched on quite a number already. So to my younger self, it's not all gloomy going into the future. Um, you are no longer where you used to be, if you are wondering. Things turned out well. You ended up with the most amazing woman. And so, side notes, when you go to that bank on that day, don't forget to follow her out and take her number. It ends well. Yeah. On the professional side of things, all of the things that you have been doing, they seem very divergent and have nothing to do with each other. In my time, things come to a head. There is something now even called AI and all of that. It's so crazy. And a lot of the things that you were struggling to figure out are now actually things that people are doing and thriving at. And so let the wild ideas keep coming. Don't wait till they are refined. Just keep pushing them. And I assure you, they are going to lead you places that you never imagined. I've had opportunities at this point to move with some of the highest people in this country. I've been to some of the communities that are at their lowest. And in the end, it brought out the best in me. And I think that going forward, we are still going to be better than you or I. So, yeah, let's see how it goes from here. But for me, I'm happy how you manage your way to get here. I wouldn't change a lot on that journey. I'll only entreat you again. Stay on course. Finish what you start. Because where I am is what gets finished that people recognize, and that is what actually gets you recognized for what you do, not what you started. Thank you. Apologies if it didn't flow as a poem,
Oh no,
but
it's perfect.
I'm sure my younger self would appreciate it.
I'm sure that your younger self would understand it. It
Yeah.
it's actually perfect. When we have these letter sessions, I mean, when we get to this segment of the episode, I I usually like when people write to younger versions of themselves, and I think the most exciting part for me is that it's heartfelt, it's very honest, and then it's reassuring. And so, even beyond your younger self, there's also the reassurance that I get for my future self. And then I know that, okay, sometime in the future, I will be better than where I currently am. And I'm certain that anybody that listens to it, regardless of whether it was flawed or not, I mean, they will get that sense of, don't worry, it will get better. Just stay the course. And that's very amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Pleasure.
What's a honest and thoughtful conversation we have had with Emmanuel Maaweh Tanga? If you are in that phase of uncertainty and you're wondering where all of your skills and passions are leading, I hope that this reminded you to keep going. Your ideas will find convergence. You are not behind, you are becoming. Remember, your judgment is valid, especially in seasons where it feels easier to doubt yourself. And just like Emmanuel shared, community, mentorship, and honest conversations can actually help you make brave, aligned decisions, even when the future feels unclear. If this episode spoke to you, share it with a younger professional or a communicator who needs this encouragement. Remember to subscribe to My Younger Self on Spotify, YouTube, and leave us a rating or a review. It helps more people find this work that we have put time and effort into creating. Also join the conversation online, tag us, and use the hashtag to My Younger Self Podcast. Follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn for behind the scenes and episode drops. Thank you for listening. Until next time, keep growing, keep trusting, and remember, your ideas will find convergence.
To My Younger Self is brought to you by PR Fusions Africa in collaboration with Comms Mentorship Circle.